Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of Talkback, brought to you by Selway Armory at 2825 Stockyard Road. More guns and ammo than anyone in Missoula. The best prices in Montana, Montana's premier firearms dealer. Nissan and Hyundai of Missoula under new management, offering rebates, discounts, and 0% financing and a huge selection of inventory. Brooks near Southgate Mall. And by Brooks, make that Bulls Eyewear, where they offer some of the lowest prices in town on contact lenses. See Lynette at Bulls Eyewear, 2910 South Reserve. Okay, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, middle of the week here. Gorgeous sunshine today, and John King is right over there trying to make the computer work.
Yeah,
there you go.
We've got some progress.
Oh, that works.
There we go. You're trying to make the
yeah.
The radio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good job. Well, we'll get these gerbils in line by the end of the show, hopefully. We have a special guest, an opportunity, if you will. Jesse Dunn is the CEO of Opportunity Resources, and he's joining us for the show today. I think it'd be great to just kind of introduce the people that may not know in Missoula what exactly Opportunity Resources is and what you do over there.
Yeah, great. Thanks. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having us. Opportunity Resources is an organization, a nonprofit organization that's been in this community for 60 years and began as called the Opportunity School. A group of parents got together, said our children who have developmental disabilities really aren't getting the kind of quality education or opportunities that we would like to see them have. This was in a time when people who had developmental disabilities were institutionalized, and that just was not good enough for this small group of parents.
Good for them.
We're talking about 7 people,
right.
Way back in 1955. That was the start of what is now Opportunity Resources. They hired a teacher, 7 students, and today that has grown to direct services to more than 700 people. That one employee is now over 350 employees.
Wow.
And so a remarkable story for this community.
And so this is something that if you've grown up in Missoula, you've probably encountered somewhere along the line, because Opportunity Resources, they do lots of different functions and services for the community, right?
That's true. We have all kinds of services, of course, for people with disabilities, but part of our philosophy has to do with supporting persons with disabilities and enhancing their quality of life. We take that mission very seriously. We're not caring for people. We're supporting people in their own dreams, desires, and goals.
What I think is really, really cool about Opportunity Resources is the fact that, in the past, folks with developmental disabilities were viewed to be, we're just going to have to help them out for their whole life, and they're not going to be able to produce anything or do anything, but we're going to love them, we're going to do the best. But that's not right. I mean, these folks go to work every day, but many of the folks go to work there at Opportunity or at various businesses all over Missoula or all over western Montana, and provide valuable services to the community, right?
You're absolutely right, Peter, and you make reference to how it used to be. I call that the first paradigm, when people with disabilities were institutionalized. And that really came out of society's fear. They thought people with developmental disabilities were dangerous somehow. And so I call that the hidden paradigm, where we hid them away.
Out of sight, out of mind, sort of, right?
Very, very much that way. Kind of a dark spot, I think, in the social history of this country. But gratefully, with parent groups like I referred to just a little bit earlier, throughout the country there was a shift to a second paradigm. And so now people are recognized that they do have abilities, and Opportunity Resources really has a philosophical position that there's even a paradigm beyond that, where there's a freedom paradigm where individuals, regardless of their abilities, can act and direct their own lives and not be acted upon.
Now, you had mentioned that Opportunity Resources started as a school. Do you still do educational functions, or what is the focus of your work now?
The school function was federally mandated some years ago. And so school districts now have the obligation to provide free public education to all individuals regardless of ability, and that was an important step forward.
Now, I have to ask, because I hear it from parents of children with autistic or other challenges, that they don't like the way their particular school is dealing with the issue. I mean, do these parents ever come to you and ask, is there a way you can help too, or?
We get a lot of questions, particularly about transitioning. There are actually some pretty good school programs, particularly at the high school level here in Missoula. But it's never too early for parents to begin understanding what happens beyond the mandatory education years. And that's where Opportunity Resources really can provide some information. We connect them with state resources, as well as programs that we have, such as our artist program and choices and some other things that we do.
Well, I think that the term that has come to be popular now is mainstreaming, in the fact that folks with developmental disabilities are in the high schools. They are participating in all sorts of different clubs and extra school organizations, churches, things like that are really reaching out, trying to help these folks feel included, because they do provide valuable resources.
They do. It's remarkable. One of the ventures that Opportunity Resources began last year is Opportunity Electronic Recycling.
Wow.
And so we set this up as a normal business. This isn't government funded or anything like that. But we employ 10 people at our facility. Half happen to have disabilities, half do not, paid on the same basis, doing similar kind of work. And this is kind of a demonstration project for us to show that, yes, there can be profitable business operated with people who happen to have disabilities and who don't happen to have disabilities.
How many businesses are under the Opportunity Resources banner?
Well, let me think.
Let me count the ways. So what? So you hang on to that. Think about that for a second, because we're up against our first break. By the way, if you have a comment or a question, our guest is Jesse Dunn, is the CEO of Opportunity Resources. Maybe you have a story that you'd like to share about a member of your family. Our lines are open at 721-1290.
And I know from a conversation we had not too long ago, you guys are working really hard on a bunch of projects outside of Missoula, but they'll be really interesting come this summer. So we'll talk about what's going on there.
Okay. Again, lines are open at 721-1290. Our guest is Jesse Dunn with Opportunity Resources, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talk Back. That's John King. I'm Peter Christian. Joining us here in the studio is Jesse Dunn, who is with us from Opportunity Resources. I've got to tell you, first of all, that Talk Back is brought to you by Transport Equipment, your headquarters for RV service maintenance and repair at 9300 Inspiration Drive. Dig It Excavating, bringing 30 years of excellence to every job. Call 214-4292. The Kootenai Creek Village, maintenance-free active adult community in Stevensville. Call 777-5387. And the Mustard Seed Asian Cafe at Southgate Mall.
So, Jesse, you were going to tell us how many businesses are under the banner. Did you figure it all out?
We do a lot of different things. We
Did you have to take your shoes off? Is that what I saw you doing over there?
He's counting, yeah. Really.
We do. It's remarkable the kinds of things that have grown up over the years as opportunities for individuals with disabilities. We have several contracts for total facility maintenance, groundskeeping and janitorial and things like that, City Hall and some of the federal buildings and so on, and that employs a lot of people. We work with the Downtown Association, and we call it our bid team, and they're highly recognizable down there and really appreciated by the folks down there. We do assembly of kits, and we do mailings. We have a mail shop. We have a product that we sell that fixes scratches on CDs, and we have a wood shop that, in fact, they can do some customized kind of work, and but survey stakes and picnic benches and tables and chairs and things like that. I mentioned the electronic recycling.
So I
business.
could take my clunky old monitor that weighs like 400 pounds. It's not like the new ones we have now. And I could bring it to you guys, can recycle it, right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Any electronic product, really.
So I'm at 9 different businesses so far. That's pretty hefty. I mean,
Well,
counting.
that doesn't count our artist program, which really artists are commissioned to do work, and they receive all the proceeds minus the costs that
Right.
associated with it. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. That
Well, that's
goes
10.
on.
I still have my shoes on.
Well, and we haven't even got to the ranch yet, right?
Oh, that's right.
Haven't even got to the ranch. That's right.
So tell us what's going on at the ranch. I understand that
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
sorry. Hey, Lassie, come here. Not only did you get this big donation of the ranch a while ago, but you recently received some grants to help improve that facility, right?
Yes, a little bit of history on that. It really was gifted to us by a wonderful woman who owned some property out there, and then we also bought another 20 acres or so. We have 160 acres on the Clark Fork River out in Frenchtown. Beautiful spot. And for a number of years, Opportunity Resources tried to run it as a ranch and did some sheep stuff and did some cattle and do a lot of
Like vegetable farming, things like that.
yeah.
Right.
And so
I know you guys were famous for your pumpkins for a while. So
still are.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Come out in the fall. And,
okay, all right.
But the fact is, the concept was that it would employ a lot of people and be good for the community. Turns out ranching's kind of tough.
That's why there are so few of them anymore, right?
I came in to this position about 2.5 years ago, and the red ink on that was just astounding to me.
Really? Okay.
And so I looked at every possibility, including selling that property.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole spectrum of possibility, we did some market research, starting, of course, with our clientele. And what is it they really wanted out of that? And out of that research came a concept to transform that property into a destination site for the entire community. And so the transformation includes the creation of a nature trail through the property. It includes the building of an animal interaction barn.
Cool.
It includes the development of accessible campsites down by the river. We plan on putting a fishing pier out there, probably have some paddle boats and some things like that. And it also includes and we're talking about a 5-year plan. This isn't all happening today.
Now, has some of that already been implemented, or is it all just kind of in the planning stages?
The engineering on the nature trail and the animal interaction barn has been done. As soon as the weather permits, those are going to be cut in and built. So those will be done by summer.
What animals will you have? Elephants? Will they? You gonna get the?
It's out of the city limits, so it's okay. The Shrine Circus is dropping off their elephants.
Yeah,
at the,
given the attention on that. These will be typical farm animals, so horses and
I'll
cows.
tell you what, strap on those headphones. We got a caller, so let's get Tom on the line. Tom, thank you for calling, sir. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Well, I have a question for your guest regarding electronics. You know, as you just mentioned, your very heavy electronic gear laying around. But we have a television that you cannot give away, an old television. And I don't know what to do with the darn thing. We live in the Bitterroot. We're going to make a dump run, and I don't think we can take it to the dump. Can I bring it to you guys, and you can dismantle it and use the parts, or how's that work? Is there a fee to drop off, or?
We can take it, and you're talking about a CRT, cathode ray tube.
Yes, it's a very large one, the old-fashioned one.
Yeah. So for a small fee, we take that and take care of it for you. And we actually can't do anything with it either. And so those really are monstrosities in terms of the recycling process. But
So what do you do with it? I mean, do you have a wall of cathode ray tube televisions? Or?
We ballast.
Yeah. We disassemble them, break them down, and then dispose of them properly.
Oh, okay.
How much is the fee?
What's that?
How much,
How much is the fee?
How much does it cost?
It's the fee is $1 per inch diagonally.
Okay, and we just take it to your facilities there on Russell Street?
Yes, we have a drop-off location there, and would be happy to provide service for you.
Great, thank you.
Awesome,
I'm sure I'm not the only one who needs that.
There you go. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, appreciate the call.
Now, I have one of these old TVs too, and you can. It looks like a Roadrunner anvil. It's so deep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So the diagonal is only the front, right? You don't
Yes,
have to.
yes,
you don't have to
yes.
cube it.
Okay, we're going to take another break. By the way, we have
For
line-
you, John, special price.
There you go. 721. Yeah, it's double for John. So 721-1290 is our number. We'd love to hear from you. Our guest, Jesse Dunn from Opportunity Resources. He is the CEO, the chief guy. So if you have a question, we'd love to hear from you. This is Talk Back, and it's Wednesday. John King's over there. I'm Peter Christian. Our guest, Jesse Dunn, CEO of Opportunity Resources here in Missoula. Just a few minutes left in our visit. So,
Yeah. So what's next? After you get the petting zoo, you get the pier built. I mean, are there more businesses on the horizon? Are you going to have Opportunity Resources Towers or Opportunity Resources Steaks? Or
We're always looking for opportunities to integrate individuals into the community. You know, sometimes we talk about self-reliance and independence, but really what we're talking about is interdependence. None of us exists in a vacuum. And helping individuals with disabilities break down barriers to really help them be part of society so that they can act and direct their own lives rather than being told what they can and can't do is really what we're about.
now you had said that it was kind of a local thing. 7 families from Missoula kind of got this up and running. Is it more than just a Missoula thing now? I mean, do you have satellite branches, or do you work with communities outside of Missoula?
Great question. We provide direct services here in Missoula County, as I mentioned, for over 700 people. We also provide case management services throughout western Montana, from Kalispell to Hamilton to Havre, Conrad. So we have
Wow.
and Helena. So we have offices in all of those locations where our case managers assist people with disabilities, help them navigate the system. And there are other providers in those locations then that provide direct services.
So are you considered a private company? Are you one of these
or your
evil
public-private sort of deal.
corporations that we hear about?
We are a private nonprofit agency. We contract with the state for Medicaid funding that most of these individuals are eligible for. And that represents maybe 75% of our total funding. These other entrepreneurial kinds of things and donations and normal nonprofit stuff is where we get the rest of it.
So let's say you've got a business and want to get involved with Opportunity, want to get some folks over to help. Maybe we can do something collaboratively. If I'm a business, how do I contact you guys?
You can call 721-2930, 721-2930, or go to our website, www.orimt.org. And we have all kinds of people who'd be happy to help you.
2930, that's a pretty easy one to remember. 721-2930. So those that help now, how many different businesses are aligned with Opportunity Resources?
There are more than 100.
Wow.
That's great.
We had a count, and I've just forgotten the exact number.
We've been making you do math all day. This seems wrong.
Hey, Jesse, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. You're welcome anytime. If there's anything special coming up, give us a call. We'll get you right on, okay?
Thanks for the chance to be here.
You bet. All right, that's Jesse Dunn, the CEO of Opportunity Resources here in Missoula, one of the big-time valuable organizations here in town. We're going to take a break, and when we come back at the top of the hour, visiting with Bob Devine, we'll talk about medical marijuana when we return. Welcome, everybody, back to hour number 2 of Talk Back. That's John King. I'm Peter Christian. Joining us here in the studio this morning, we're shifting gears from what we talked about last hour. Bob Devine is with us. He is a dispensary owner and is also the chairman, right?
Yes,
Of the
chairman.
Montana Cannabis
Industry Association.
Industry Association.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, are you based out here at Missoula, Bob?
No, I'm in Bozeman.
You're in Bozeman. Okay.
So tell us what's going on. I understand it's gotten confusing as of recent days as far as how the medical marijuana dispensary shops are allowed to operate in Montana. Can you give us a brief history about what's happened in your industry?
Well, sure. We had a lawsuit that was started in 2011, came to fruition in the lower courts last January. The state sided in favor of us. The Attorney General appealed that to the Supreme Court, which we just got a ruling from them. People also need to understand that the ruling that the Supreme Court gave wasn't necessarily whether medical marijuana is bad or whatnot, or right or wrong. It was simply a ruling as to legislature being able to make up laws and govern by such. So with that ruling on February 25th, it limited providers to only 3 patients, did away with advertising. It also enacted a clause where doctors would have to go before a medical review board every 25 patients that they recommended, which they'd have to pay for themselves and would also be on their record. So that judgment came down, like I said, on the 25th. The MTCIA submitted a motion for reconsideration to the Supreme Court. And we also asked for a responsible transition period, of which we didn't get any guidance from the court or the state in any way, shape, or form. With our motion, we included an affidavit from the Department of Health and Human Services. And
Now, is that the Montana DPPH?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they also are asking for more time to transition from the program as it's been working, because we've been cruising along for 5 years now, and it'd be very hard to undo something like that within a couple of weeks.
So right now, are the dispensaries like yours, are you operating with the 3 individual rule, or do you have the same operation you had 4 years ago?
We still have the same stay going on, in that until this is figured out by the court, we're still operating as we were.
Let's go back. Let's go back in time, okay, to several years ago when the original initiative was put before the people, the citizens of Missoula. I'm not sure exactly how it was worded, but it was basically about allowing medical marijuana to be sold here in Montana.
Right.
And I believe about 60% of the folks who voted in favor of that. The initiative passed, and so kaboom! All of a sudden, we've got a medical marijuana industry, a burgeoning, cutting in its infancy here in Missoula, and it really, forgive the term, began to mushroom. I mean, here
Sure.
in Missoula, there were shops all over the place.
You could say it grew like a weed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what happened is some folks began to say, wait a minute, this is more than we thought was going to happen. We thought it was going to be, because grandma needs help with her glaucoma, and somebody needs help with pain or whatever, pain management, whatever it is. And now these green cards are all over the place. And so I think people were feeling like it was going out of control. And so the next legislative session came in and said, we're just going to put the brakes on this. And is that kind of how it happened, or am I just being too simplistic about it?
No, well, the program came about in 2004.
Okay.
Legislature didn't do anything about it till 2011.
Okay.
And we had tried with the legislature for sessions before that, and nobody really wanted to touch this.
Right.
It was a very gray law. There was no regulation in it whatsoever. You have a driver's license, you can become a provider and take on patients. It didn't put forth any licensing for dispensaries or any sort of parameters around that. Towns did. Bozeman, way ahead of the curve. The city commission sat down 5 years ago and came up with a plan of how to regulate dispensaries in the town. But so, yes, the program blew up pretty fast, really in 2009 with the first Ogden memo. That's when it really started to.
And what do you mean by an Ogden memo?
Well, where the Obama administration released a statement saying that they wouldn't be prosecuting medical marijuana providers and whatnot.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, a lot of people felt very safe at that point.
Right, yeah.
And, the billboards went up and the caravan started, and people thought it was a great idea to go and smoke cannabis on the steps of Helena. And it got a lot of reactions from not just legislators, but people in the state. People were concerned. And the legislative backlash was, well, one, they first tried to repeal it, which Schweitzer vetoed. And then they came up with 423, which was repeal in disguise.
Okay, and with that, we're up against our first break. So, by the way, all three lines are open. If you want to visit with Bob Devine, this is something that is it continues on today. We'd love to know what you folks think about it. We've had shows about this in the past, but not for quite some time since these new developments have happened. So our lines are open if you'd like to comment, either for or against, or pro or con, or whatever. 721-1290.
And I found a ballot from 2004 with the initiative on it. I'll read you the text of it so that we all know when we get back.
We'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. 1-800-568-5309. John King over there. I'm Peter Christian. Bob Devine joining us, medical marijuana dispensary owner. And we're talking about kind of a little bit of a history lesson and what's going on with medical marijuana. Kind of get up to the present here. And you had mentioned that just very briefly, I know you can't talk about it too much, but there was a recent survey. Oh, by the way, John, you had the
I did.
The ballot language, right?
But I just lost it when I scrolled down. So you chat for a second. Okay. I'll tell you what I got when I get it.
So let's talk about the survey that you had mentioned while we were off the air.
Well, yeah, originally I believe it was 64% that Montanans overwhelmingly approved this at the ballot box. And what we're finding through our own polling is that those numbers have only gotten stronger.
Yeah.
So here's the original initiative. This is actually the text of they used to hand out these little, I think they might still do it, although I haven't received one for quite some time. These kind of like help you figure out what you think about the ballot. And there's like pro and con statements for every citizen's initiative and everything like that. Anyway, so this text is the description from the Secretary of State's office of initiative number 148. This initiative would allow the production, possession, and use of marijuana by patients with debilitating medical conditions. Patients could use marijuana under medical supervision to alleviate the symptoms of conditions including cancer, glaucoma, and HIV/AIDS, or other conditions of treatments that produce wasting, severe or chronic pain, severe nausea, seizures, severe muscle spasms, or other conditions defined by the state. A patient or the patient's caregiver could register to grow and possess limited amounts of marijuana by submitting to the state written certification by a physician that the patient has a debilitating medical condition and would benefit from using marijuana. There would be no measurable cost to state government from the approval of this initiative. All right, now here's the text that was in the ballot that you checked off yes or no, or for or against.
All right.
So for, allowing the limited use of marijuana under medical supervision by patients with debilitating medical conditions to alleviate the symptoms of their condition. And against, allowing the limited use of marijuana under medical supervision by patients with debilitating medical conditions to alleviate the symptoms of their conditions. Now, I think, if I remember right, there was a lot of people that were getting marijuana that didn't apparently have the debilitating conditions. And I heard stories of people that were like, a doctor would travel through town, they would get a line of people they'd give out what they call green cards. In fact, I know some people that got these green cards or whatever they're calling them. And it sounded like there just wasn't a very good process for how the medical marijuana industry was going to work with the public after this went into effect.
It just seemed like a real loosey-goosey way of doing it. There wasn't any real structure there, or are we wrong on that?
There wasn't a definitive structure laid out by the state. There wasn't a regulatory body in that case.
Do you think that would have helped if the legislature had said, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to hold off for just maybe a year or so and put together some sort of regulatory body where there is some sort of way to make sure that everything's being
Checks and
done above
balances.
board, right?
Sure. I don't know that waiting a year would have been appropriate, but yes, without question, some sort of regulations in place would provide safeguards for the public's concern there.
So strap on those headphones because we have a caller. And by the way, we have two lines open at 721-1290. Craig, you are on Talk Back with Bob Devine. Hi.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Craig.
So help me along here, John. Did we have a Republican-controlled legislature when this law was passed?
2004?
Yes.
11, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well, no. Which one is it?
When they just elected this new law that went to the Supreme Court.
Yes, that was a
Is that
Republican
control?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it was too.
Well, it's interesting. They talk about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton.
But see, the thing is, Craig,
and their socialist ideas, and then these guys come charging in there, and they say, "Well, you voters, you kind of got your head up your cuckoo, and so we're going to help you along here with this."
in other words, you don't really know what you want, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like let's point the finger, and that's one of the things that perhaps has gotten these Republicans up in arms. And hell, we send you to the legislature and everything, and you don't do what we ask you to do, and we vote in a initiative, and you tell us that we need help. So I just wanted to make some smart ass remarks.
Well, you mission accomplished there, Craig.
Right, thank you.
Thanks for the call. So how do you respond to what Craig had to say, Bob?
This shouldn't be a partisan issue. This is about patients and citizens of Montana. And that's what our elected officials are supposed to be doing in Helena, is looking out for all Montanans, not just a certain few. And granted, the amount of patients in the state is not an overwhelming percentage, but in the same, this is a law that needs to work for all Montanans. And I feel that a lot of these legislators have done a disservice to all Montanans by not addressing this, by not regulating this in a responsible, transparent manner. So, the people that are concerned about this, that their concerns are addressed.
And just so you know, Craig, the difference in the Senate at that time was 6 votes. So it was very close to being tied Republican-Democrat in the Senate.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break. We have that line's ringing. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309.
That's the 2011, not the 2004 legislation.
Okay. We will be right back. Stay with us. Oh, yeah. 721-1290 is our number. 1-800-568-5309. And, Bob, you're officially a rock star. All of our lines are full. You get the T-shirt. So
it's a popular subject.
Let's get back to the phones and say good morning to Pete. Pete, you're on with Bob Devine. Go ahead.
Good morning. Peter,
Hi, Pete.
You really touched on the issue. The original law authorized the medical marijuana treatment, and it was really abused is what caused the 2011 overreaction legislatively. And there was no self-regulation. They expect someone else to do it for them, and that's what they got. And who gets the bad end of it? The patient.
Yes.
And now we go to court, and you or I take something to court and lose. What's on the law goes into effect immediately. Now we want special dispensation to another legislative session so we can keep doing what we've been doing. And the stalling tactic. That's all I have.
All right, thanks. Thanks for the call. So your reaction, Bob?
Well, he's exactly right. Thanks, Pete. The patients are the ones that lose out here. And, to a lot of people that don't understand the logistics of this program, you say, well, the provider can have 3 patients. Great, they take care of 3 people. Unfortunately, we have a lot more patients than there would be providers.
You had mentioned a number.
Yeah, 14,000 some odd patients. So if those were to be covered by providers, we'd need 4,700 providers. that is very unrealistic, especially with an irresponsible transition period.
Are there even 4,700 pharmacies in Montana?
No, and it goes even further than just that. Obviously, you know, there's I believe 400 and some odd providers in the state. We're not going to get another 4,000+ here in a matter of weeks. So now you've got all those patients who can't find a provider. Not all of them can grow from themselves. Another facet of this that a lot of people don't understand is there will be a lot of patients who are ineligible to even be patients. Because in order to be a patient in Montana, you have to, 1, elect a provider, or 2, be able to grow for yourself. Now, to be able to grow for yourself, you either have to own your own home or have a landlord sign a notarized form to allow you to grow. Now, we all know that a lot of landlords out there are not going to let their residents grow. So
I remember during this whole hubbub, we had all sorts of horror stories about people doing grow operations in their basement, and
Sure.
there's contamination and all this kind of stuff.
And you know, that's just it. And that's why, you know, we're asking for regulation. That's why the initiative that we have at the Attorney General's office right now is a regulatory initiative. Because, you know, imagine this. Tomorrow, this law goes into effect. Do Montanans want 13,000, 14,000 patients going out into the neighborhoods of the state, growing in their homes, in their closets, in their basements, in their garages? Or would Montanans like to know where it's being produced in a licensed facility, where it's being dispensed in a licensed facility? We feel the latter, that's a much more responsible way of dealing with this than, you know, just saying, oh, you're on your own, knowing full well that a lot of these people will not be able to produce cannabis that they need.
Well, would these restrictions that you're proposing, would they make it so that I couldn't grow in my home?
No, you could. As
so
a
it's
patient.
both, basically.
Yes, but it licenses providers and dispensaries, and there will be a licensing procedure that goes with that.
Would there? But again, getting back to the previous topic, would there be a board to make sure that whoever is being licensed is properly licensed?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would fall under the Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay. So let's get back to the phones. Jose, thank you for holding, sir. You're on with Bob Devine. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Jose.
Hey, I've been involved in this cannabis for almost 40 years, okay? That's long before it's been legal.
Mm-hmm.
But what I see wrong with what's going on here in Montana, and I've got several other things I need to talk about, is that in this state, there's a bunch of people involved in it that don't know their nose from the rear end.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and what I see good in the other states is that they have taken the time to get involved with the people that know the product. You cannot take cannabis and hand it to a bunch of pharmacists and expect them to distribute this product with the quality that is needed to go with it.
It would be illegal for them to do that. It's against federal law.
Right. Well, that too, but that's what they're trying to do is push this over to a legal licensed pharmacist,
Okay.
and there's no way. It's like having some white shirt in an office suddenly decide to be a farmer and grow corn.
Okay.
It ain't going to happen. And so what the problem in Montana is you've got too many people that don't know nothing about the product, and they're going with all these misnomers, and they're trying to control what's going on. And the problem is you need to get a board of people that know the product and know a little bit of the legal aspect and work with the legal legislators and all to produce a program that's going to work.
Without
and it
question.
can happen.
Okay.
You're absolutely right, Jose, and that's why we've come up with this initiative that allows for labs. You know, it's in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, you know, we want to know the cannabinoid content and of our products and whatnot. The patients are the ones that win out on that. It's very important. Any evolved system in this state, or in this country, any state, has testing, has licensing. And you're absolutely right. The way the program is set up right now, anybody can be a provider with a driver's license and that sends it into the state and gets fingerprinted and doesn't have a criminal background.
On the spectrum of restrictions between what's going on now, what would happen if the new regulations go into effect from 2011 retroactively, and your proposal, do you feel like yours sits in the middle, a happy medium between now and what's proposed, or?
Without question. Like I said, we are mandating that the state comes up with rules for providers, dispensaries, labs. These are very, very important aspects to any program. So yes, it is a middle-of-the-road, responsible approach to transparency for the consumer and for the citizens of the state.
Let me ask you this. How do you keep out the illegal, if you will? A lot of people thought, oh, my gosh, we're going to have all this organized crime moving in, blah, 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 blah. How do you stop that and kind of cut that notion off at the pass by what you're proposing? How would that prevent criminal organizations from coming in and trying to take over this type?
Sure, transparency. Right. Transparency through licensing, through tracking, through taxes. This is not unlike any other business. I think there's a lot of misinformation that this is just a cash cow. It's like any other business, especially with the federal tax codes that still exist that we have to live by and whatnot. So the criminal element would much rather have a program that is not transparent, that does not require licensing, that does not require taxes and whatnot. As we all know, that's how that thrives. With regulation and licensing, you're not going to have kids coming into a store. Without that, your neighbor can be growing in their garage and selling it to pretty much anybody they want.
So they would prefer it to remain, in the dark.
Without question.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to come right back. We have Don and Catherine. We have one line open. Bob Devine joining us until 10 o'clock this morning, talking about medical marijuana. We'd love to hear from you, either on the phone or on our Facebook page. We're coming right back. All right, we got talk back rolling right along here this morning, 721-1290. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so you have some kind of call to action here. So is this an initiative that people need to sign up for? Or is it something they just got to wait till the next legislative cycle for? What's going on?
Oh, no. Give it a few weeks, and it should be out of the Attorney General's office, and we're going to hit the pavement
with
this.
People with petitions, right?
Yeah, we hired M&R here in Missoula, an initiative company. They're nationally based, and we're going to be hitting it very hard.
Now, what I've noticed is that the citizens' initiative process has become a lot harder since 2004. How many votes do you know? How many you'll need to get? Or signatures, not votes.
Same, 24,000.
Okay.
Which, we'll obviously be getting a lot more than that. But, yeah, to qualify, it's 24.
Okay, let's get back to the phones. And Don is up next. Hi, Don. You're on with Bob Devine.
Oh, good morning. Hi, Bob.
Hi,
I got a comment and a question. I'm in the security business, and about 3.5 years ago, we had a big run on, putting security systems in for people that grow, and I'm just looking at this from my perspective. At least 90%, if not all of of course, I was only in these places for a day or so, but 90% of the customers did not seem that they were in need of medical type situations. And then my question is isn't THC available from prescriptions in pills form
a synthetic
already?
form is. Unfortunately, people don't find the same relief there. Now, I'm curious as to your question. Do you have medical experience?
I do not.
So are you able to tell a person's physical ailments by just looking at them?
No, but I could tell that the people that were coming in definitely were not.
They weren't limping or blind or what?
Yeah, no, I get that because I get it a lot of times, and that's why I asked you that question. Because
do you have a pharmacy license yourself? So you're able to tell that?
No, we go by a doctor's recommendation. You two good gentlemen here, do I look sick to you?
No.
I've had juvenile diabetes for 32 years. and cannabis has increased my well-being immensely, and it enables me to live a better, happier, healthier life. And a lot of people look at me and say, well, you don't look sick. You're in great shape for a 47-year-old guy and whatnot. But little do they know that I have debilitating stomach issues from high blood sugar, pain in my stomach. And cannabis is the only thing that helps me to feel better, so I can eat, so I can stay hydrated, so I can exercise. So, I hear this from a lot of people. And it's a good thing that we do have doctors who know differently.
Sure. My wife is a nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to many doctors. I am definitely not a medical professional, but I will tell you one thing that I know is that pain is extremely hard to diagnose. We've all seen the wall chart in the hospital where it says, are you the happy face? The happy face that's turning more red? The happy face that's frowning? It's a very difficult thing to diagnose. And I have no doubt that people that want marijuana and want to do it legally have abused that system to get the access to marijuana that they want without necessarily being in pain like someone like glaucoma or someone with a stomach ailment might have. And I think that's what inspires people like this last caller to feel like people are abusing the system.
And without question, I think there's abuses of every system. And, we don't have people saying, you know what, let's take everybody's driver's license away because of these fools who drink and drive. And as unfortunate as that is, but this is, the same thing. Is there a percentage of people who have a recommendation for cannabis that don't need it? Well, you'd have to talk to their doctor about that because, how someone looks on the outside isn't necessarily, the way it is for them.
Okay, tell you what, we're going to take a little break. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. And we have Catherine and Jim and Bruce all lined up to talk to you. Bob, so we'll be right back. We're talking about medical marijuana, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Talkback now. 721-1290, but wouldn't do any good because all the lines are full. So
we do have our Facebook page, which
yes.
For some reason, we don't have any posts on. So if you want to get a message through, we'll read those.
Come on, Facebookers. All right, let's get Catherine on first. Good morning, Catherine. Go ahead.
Okay, just a few little things here. It's still illegal at a federal level for providers, so they're still subject to DEA action. And I wanted to ask you about...
Unless the president promises that they won't.
I must apologize real quick. Facebook did have some posts, but I think because the word marijuana was in the post, that Facebook automatically hid the post.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it was hidden, and there's no cursing in it.
Okay, so no, Bob wanted to jump in with what you just said. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
you weren't able to finish, Catherine. Did you have...
Okay. So I wanted to... among other things, I wanted to ask you about the liability insurance and medical malpractice insurance aspects of this, because since it is still illegal at the federal level, that would intersect with being able to have or carry some sort of liability insurance, I would think. That was one question that I had.
And that would be the physician, doctor, would be dealing with the medical malpractice insurance.
Right, but a business that provides a product usually needs to have some sort of liability insurance. And
sure. Yeah. Well, any business.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we have your standard liability insurance. My business does.
Okay. Well, the other two parts of my question, if you will. One thing that with drugs is that medical providers try to titrate a drug to an optimal level for efficacy, right?
Sure.
So there's production standardization. And so this is something I've wondered about for a while. How are the production standards for marijuana, medical marijuana, and the THC levels standardized to prescription levels? How is that handled, if it is? And is there any way to separate dispensaries from production facilities?
Well, there would be a way to separate them under a program where you'd have licensed producers, licensed retailers, and whatnot. As far as standards, that one would require mandatory testing, which I'm for. Our initiative allows for testing, not mandatory at this point in time. Cannabis is an interesting one because it affects different individuals very differently. And cannabis is made up of a lot of different compounds and cannabinoids, and no two strains are exactly the same. So that standardization there is really not applicable in that sense, because some people find relief in a higher THC cannabis, and others find more relief for their symptoms with a high CBD and whatnot. So the standardization per se with synthetic drugs is very different than this. This is a recommendation. It is not an actual prescription, X amount of times per day and whatnot.
Thanks for your call, Catherine.
Okay,
Thanks, Catherine.
So
Appreciate that.
The Facebook question we had was from Kathy. She says, why is marijuana treated any different than alcohol? I think a lot of the answer has to be that alcohol no longer has a federal ban on it like marijuana still does. It's still considered, if I'm not mistaken, a Schedule I drug.
It is.
And so because of the way that so many parts of our lives are layered at the state, the local, and the federal level, whenever you have a part of life that rubs up against that federal level, there's still a ban on it, even though they say they're not going to act on it. And that could change in 2 years, depending on the next president.
Yeah, it's at the whim of whoever's in the White House. So let's get Jim on the line. Jim, thanks for holding. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Hi. I'll tell you what I observed since this stuff's been legalized is I watch employees in service trucks token before they go in the convenience store to buy their lunches. I've been to a lot of public gatherings of whatnot. As you're just kind of looking around, you'll see people standing off by themselves blowing dope. It's everywhere. So my question is how are you going to keep it out of the hands of children? One of my sons started smoking dope when he was 11 years old.
Wow.
And now he almost died because he destroyed his heart valve. He's he's now a meth addict.
Oh, Lord.
Been for years. And my hair stands up every time I see this. Two of my sons are dopers, and I'm very upset with this.
Okay.
Gotcha. So
And
your
when I
sons
look
are
around
drug
watching
addicts.
people smoke this stuff in public, I just want to go crazy.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, thanks for the call. All right.
So
sorry about that you've had such problems with your family.
Yeah. It sounds like your kids are drug addicts, and that's unfortunate.
Now, that opens the door to the question: is it a gateway drug?
Is alcohol a gateway drug? Or cigarettes a gateway drug?
Yeah, I think any mind-altering substance could be.
And, for people with...
like caffeine, a gateway drug.
With drug issues, who's to say, egg before the chicken.
Sure. But his question, how do you keep it out of the hands of kids?
Regulation.
Or is that something that you could do? Yeah, okay.
Regulation, without question. Because his child was getting it when he was 11 years old. And I'd like to know where they were purchasing it. Was it from a licensed dispensary that was in downtown Missoula? No. There's, without question, not. So I can't answer his question specifically, but this program is for patients in need of it, not for children.
Yeah, who go to the
not
doctor.
For children.
Yeah, right.
Children. This is not for them, unless, yes, of course, a medical recommendation. Right. But it's unfortunate that society takes the stance to where they would rather deny sick patients access to medicine because they're concerned about their children getting it. I've raised two kids in the state. I have an 18-year-old and 22-year-old. I never wanted my kids to be getting at cannabis, and thankfully they're not cannabis users. But I myself would want safeguards in place because of that. Because, was it Jim who just called in?
Right, yeah.
He's got some very, very, very good points here. And these points are why we need a regulatory system to address that. A lot of Montanans have concerns. They don't want their kids getting cannabis, and regulation is a great way to deter that.
Okay, we're going to take our final timeout. It's a 1-minute break, and we have Bruce, Dave, and Brenda, and we're going to try to get them all in if we can. So we'll be right back. Hey, we're back on Talkback, and it's been a very, very busy hour. Lots of folks on the phone, and real quickly, let's move right along. So, Bruce, you're up first. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. I'll just say first off that the original gateway drug is sugar, but I have two...
Or air.
Or air. There you go. Two real quick questions, and I'll let somebody else get on the line. One, I believe it's true that if you have your green card, you cannot legally possess a firearm. And two, I think, John, you said something yesterday about Big Pharma maybe wanting to do some kind of a patent on medical marijuana.
It wasn't me. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
boy,
wouldn't doubt.
no,
I wouldn't doubt that someone would like to make money off it, but it wasn't me that said it.
GW
Oh yeah, well,
Pharmaceuticals
tell that
is
to
working
tell that to the state. They just shot one of the big cash cows in the foot.
Okay. Well, thanks for the call. So, what do you think about what he just did?
The Big Pharma aspect of things? Well, we hear that a lot. And there's, without question, some companies that specialize in cannabis. GW Pharmaceuticals, they're the makers of Sativex. I think a lot of people have heard about Sativex. It's currently under FDA trials. Yes, they'll have a patent on that. The government has a patent on certain compounds in cannabis. For Big Pharma to get involved with this, they'd have to really change a lot of ways. You know, this isn't like most synthetic drugs. Not saying that there's not an interest there, but you know, I think that's a long way off. With the descheduling of cannabis, you know, we really have to be careful of how that goes about, because even Robitussin is a Schedule 5 drug.
Right.
I can't
produce
that in a warehouse here and sell it on my counters. So.
Let's move along, get some more calls. Dave, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. I can't understand the federal government's position. They treat medical marijuana worse than they treat medical heroin. I mean,
you're right.
It doesn't make sense. You know, you get medical heroin easily, and it's legal. But
is that methadone?
Or OxyContin.
Right, and then as patients run out of OxyContin, they're turning to heroin these days. That's a big concern.
It is a form of heroin, by the way, and I mean, it's just not. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think everyone would agree with you.
Thanks, Dave.
The federal government is a little weird on this one.
Right, and they're slow to change on that. So it's a state by state issue, and eventually, the walls are dropped. We don't know exactly how that's going to go down, but. Time will tell.
Forgive the term, they're a little schizophrenic about it.
They've defunded, the DEA from prosecuting medical marijuana entities and whatnot. So there's steps that are being taken. Banking issues need to be addressed, so on and so forth. And every little step that's taken leads us closer to the federal government coming up with some sort of regulatory stance on this, without question.
Okay. Brenda, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Yeah, just a couple of really quick points. I have adult grandchildren, late 20s, early 30s, and I said to one of them one time that my main problem with marijuana was that it was a gateway to the bad drugs, and she said, no, Grandma, she said, it's booze that's the gateway. You get in a party and you get your face full of it. I won't say it the way she did. and somebody
I think my mom used to say a snootful.
Yeah. Yeah, give me some of that stuff.
Okay.
And she said that it's booze that's the gateway. The other thing is another granddaughter lived in Oregon, and she said out there everybody knew where they could go to get the green card without having to really be sick, so they could have it with them legally. So that's my comment.
Okay.
Thanks.
I want to get one more call. Jeannie, you're on Talkback. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, a lot of young people, school age, are getting their drugs, their marijuana from their friends, and there just needs to be a crackdown in our schools, be it with drug-sniffing dogs, whatever. It's just a crisis, and more needs to be done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Thanks,
Right.
Jeannie.
Well,
Yeah, no,
we have exactly 2 minutes left, so go ahead, Bob.
No, a great point, and that's why a regulatory program addresses a lot of those issues. A licensed entity, licensed by the state, is going to, have a lot harder time selling to kids and individuals, and not have repercussions, because it would be easier to track that way. The fact that the schools are having more of a problem, really brings up the fact that this is not a regulated program. And, if right now people could produce alcohol and sell it to whoever they want, you better believe more kids would be getting it.
Mm-hmm. So I understand you've got a bunch of stuff coming up, right? You have a meeting tonight, is that right?
We do. That's a lot of the reason I'm here. We have a MTCIA meeting tonight at 6:30 at the Wingate Hotel. Well, we're going to be discussing the state of the program now. We've got a lot of concerned patients and providers who want information, who have concerns themselves. So we're there to answer their questions and talk about what we're doing to move forward, talk about our initiative, talk about fundraising, because a lot of this takes money to get done. We've hired Jim Getz, the best constitutionalist lawyer in the state. He's kept our doors open for 5 years. He's keeping our doors open now.
Yeah,
So-
we're flat out of time. Phone number or website?
mtcaa.org if you're interested in donating information, whatnot. That is the best way to get at us. We're on Facebook, MTCIA.
Super. Okay, what's coming up tomorrow, John?
Tomorrow we will talk with Corey Stapleton, who's going to run for Secretary of State.
Okay, you guys have a great day. Thanks, guys, for being with us and all your calls. Have a great day.